Peace and love, beautiful people. It's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. And a beautiful day begins with a beautiful mindset. Does it not? Y'all, I was debating. I'm like, do I want to go live about this? And I really do. I really, really do. I want to talk about ghosting and how it is like this phenomenon that is taking over society presently. I'm gonna wait and let a few people come on in here before I dive into it, because it's like it's too common for it not to be addressed. And I think everybody is on this vibe of like, well, I'm just gonna match your energy, I'm just gonna, and it's like, no. What happened to maturity and having, adult conversations? Communication is an art that very few have mastered. Because when we think about communication, I think a lot of the times we just think about talking. But communicating is more than just talking. It is what you say, it's how you say it, it's how you listen, it's what you comprehend. There's so many moving parts and pieces to communication, and I think a lot of the times people are just like, well, I said what I said, so I communicated. Okay, is what you communicated, was it received? Was it comprehended? Someone said, what about boundaries though? Like if someone keeps being disrespectful, I think ghosting is the perfect response as of now. Okay, I'm not really talking about if you've expressed yourself and you've communicated and you've had open dialogue with someone and they've talked back and then there's been no change, no shift, no course of action that's been directed in another way. That's different. That's not ghosting. That's bowing out. That's stating, this is where I'm at. This is what I need. This is where I desire to be met. This is what I feel I desire, I deserve. And if these can't be met, if this can't happen, then I choose to remove myself. That's not the same as ghosting. That's maturity. That's how things should be handled. That's how relationships should be handled, whether it's friendship, professional, romantic, in any way, family. But what I'm talking about, oh, seatbelt, right, you're right. But what I'm talking about is the ghosting when there's been no communication, when you just decide, like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Because honestly, it's not so much the act of ghosting, it's the revealing of what lies underneath the surface. When people ghost, it's an easy out most of the time. It's a lack of accountability most of the times. It's an escape plan that I can just dip out without having to feel uncomfortable, have these uncomfortable conversations, or invest, right? When you, let me put this in the best way. The level of commitment is always revealed in the follow-through. A lot of times we say we want something, and when we want it, we're like, oh yeah, I'm willing to do whatever. I'm willing to do whatever is convenient, right? I'm willing to do whatever seems easy, whatever seems like I need to do to be able to get to where I want to be. But the commitment, are you committed to whatever you're investing in? Because if not, then what's the point? If you were on the other side of this action, how would you want to be treated? How would you want to see the situation handled? That's all that you can ask of yourself, is to handle situations to the best of your ability. Treat people the way you want to be treated. How we end things is the energy that we carry into our new beginnings. Beginnings are endings in disguise. It's a never-ending cycle, and sometimes I feel like we try to justify why it's okay for us to put forth actions that we know we would not be okay with receiving. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Like, I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to I am big on communication. I'm okay with being wrong. I'm not here to be right. I don't have to justify my existence. All I can do is share with you my experience, my perspective, my beliefs, and hope that you can hold space for that to receive it, not to agree with it, perhaps to understand. Because when we allow ourselves to meet people with understanding, we grow. I just think a lot of the times we're not extending compassion. We're not extending understanding. We're not extending patience. We're not extending grace for people to be people, for humans to be humans. We have this expectation that people should be a certain type of way, and when they're not, then I'm just gonna cut them off or walk away from them. That says a lot more about you and your character than that person. In the past 2 years, I feel like I've been ghosted so much. Like, people that I was deeply invested in. Like, I'm talking about romantic relationships for 5-6 years. I'm talking about friendships that have lasted over a year, from one day to the next, not communicating, not talking. I'm gonna unfriend you, I'm gonna remove you, I'm just gonna not communicate and say, hey, this is how I feel, this is what I'm thinking. When you said this, it made me feel this. When this happened, this is how I perceived it. You know, I feel like, just based on our experiences, perhaps we're incompatible, and I choose to not move forward in this with you. That is completely okay to express at any given time. But a lot of us would rather not. And we would rather focus on, choose what's the easiest route. And I feel like if you're always going after what's easy, you'll never have what lasts. Relationships are not meant to be easy. The art of relating, it's an art. To relate to another person, to relate to yourself, that's an art. It takes practice. How can you get better at something? How can you become a master of something if you're not practicing, if you're not willing to practice what you've learned? Because to know something, to acquire knowledge is one thing. To apply that knowledge is something different. And I think a lot of us just are lacking the skills that it actually requires to be a part of relationships, healthy relationships. Healthy, not easy, right? Healthy. What is the root word of healthy? Heal. If we're not moving in a way that allows us to contribute healing, what are we contributing to? If you can't help someone, don't hurt. At least don't hurt them, right? I feel like the most that we could do, the least and the most that we could ever do, is leave people and things, situations, places, circumstances better than we found them. Hurt people. So when you experience people ghosting, you got to realize that's just a habit, a learned behavior. When you have open dialogue with yourself, when you're open and expressive with yourself and your emotions, what you feel, what you think, what you want, what you need, you have less resistance in sharing that with others. But when you don't know how to express yourself, when you've not been able to be received in your fullness, when you've had to be less than or more than yourself to be accepted, then you start to learn to, minimize your existence, hold back. And all that does is it really affects you, and it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of others when it comes to you. Even last week, y'all, I had 2 businesses, 2 yoga studios that I was teaching for since like December, January. In a way, they let me go through a text message. Like, you can't even pick up the phone and call me. Like, you can't say, hey, when do you have some time so we can meet in person? Like, I would like to have a conversation with you. I'd like to engage. I would like to have a heart to heart. We don't do that no more. We're not even operating from our hearts. Most people are operating from their hurt. But you want to be a part of something that's healthy. You want to be a part of something that's lasting. How, Sway? Happy Friday, y'all. What if the other person doesn't know how to properly communicate? Then that's up to you to acknowledge and to decide, is this worth me moving forward with someone who doesn't have the capacity to meet me where I am? And if they don't know how to communicate, it's up to you to communicate your truth and say, you know, hey, I've tried, I've said, I've done, and I feel like I've done everything that I can offer to this situation. I feel like I've done everything that I would like to receive from this situation. Based on that, I've decided to no longer move forward in this connection. I've done that many times. I've done that many times. And it's liberating. And then people usually want to be like, no, let me try to, Because once my limit is reached, it's reached. But I don't just get to the point where I'm like, you did one thing I don't like, and I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to communicate. I'm going to say, hey, when you say this, when you do this, when you did this, I felt this way. Even if it wasn't your intention, I'm going to let you know how I feel, because when someone tells you that you hurt their feelings, you don't get to decide that you didn't. And we're quick to put that defense up. Well, I ain't mean, I didn't, maybe you just, well, what about when you... No, that's not the time for that. That's when someone lets me know that I hurt them or I offended them or made them feel away, my first thing's going to be let you know, like, hey, it was not my intention to hurt your feelings. It was not my intention to disrespect you. It was not my intention to contribute to you feeling XYZ. When I said this, when I did this, this is how I felt. I have no problem clearing the air because I value clarity. A lot of people exist in confusion, drama, chaos. That's all that they know. We become products of our environment. And I'm not just talking about what's around you. What goes on in your mind when conflict comes up? How do you handle conflict? How do you resolve conflict? How do you move through conflict? Conflict is unavoidable. Challenges are unavoidable. This life is not meant to be conflict-free, challenge-free. It is meant to challenge you. It is meant to offer you the opportunities to grow, to shift, to evolve, to heal, to be better, to shed what no longer serves you, right? But that's a choice, and that requires intention, which starts here. But if you're just moving from your head without a connection to your heart, pointless. Because your mind is a program. It's a functioning of the brain. Your heart is always going to guide you towards what's best. But unfortunately, a lot of times we don't go towards what's best. We go towards what's easiest. And that's when we short ourselves, because we cut off people who are really valuable. We cut off relationships that are meaningful. We are so quick to just act like it doesn't matter. Act like we don't care. Distract ourselves with something else. Move into the next situation, next relationship, next person who's treating us the way we want to be treated right now. So every time you have a problem, you'll cut somebody off. If that happens too often, maybe perhaps it's time to look into the mirror and see what is being reflected back to you. Perhaps. Or we could just keep passing the buck and making it everybody else's fault instead of taking responsibility. That's it. That's it. Heart chakra on fleek. All right, y'all, I made it to my destination. It's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. Remember that a beautiful day begins with a beautiful mindset. Your mentality becomes your reality. When you see people struggling and suffering and living in drama and chaos and confusion, you got to realize that is their reality. You don't have to be consumed by it, but you also don't have to fight it. Just be like, oh no, that's not in alignment with me. That doesn't serve me. That doesn't reflect what I desire to create as my reality. And thus, I move around. But I do it with love. So that means no matter what I put out, it's always going to come back to me with love, because I put it out with love. When people are so quick to cut people off, I did this, and you're moving with that energy, you don't realize, baby, all you're doing is putting it out so it can boomerang back to you. The golden rule that they teach us when we're children: treat others the way you want to be treated. Everybody's grown till it's time to communicate, apologize, comprehend, forgive, understand. Get out of here with that. Grow up. Grow up. You ain't grown, baby. Nobody's ever grown. You're never fully healed. You can be growing. You can be healing. And that's a journey that is ever evolving. The choice is yours. I'm going to leave this up on my page. Hey, Dominique, happy Friday. Hey, Anna, happy Friday. Hey, Phil, 9,000 Suns. Thank y'all for coming in and sharing time and space with me. Anna said, I think a lot of people are still living in hurt. It's true. Hurt people hurt people. Healed people heal people. You get to choose who you want to be and the impact that you want to have on the world around you. So I love you. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful, glorious, magnificent, sunshiny day. And I hope that you choose to operate from your heart rather than from your hurt today. Okay? I love you. Peace. Love. And Mickey Ficky, namaste.